What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today I'm going to talk about the guys that Washington should pay close attention to when it comes to this upcoming draft. These are not guys in draft order. I'm not doing that just yet. But these are guys that I want not only the franchise to look at, but also you as fans to look at as well. These guys, to me, are guys that the Washington franchise could in fact get in the draft. And not only that, guys that could be very, very good for this upcoming season. And not only that, can possibly play right now for this team. But even with that, there are some guys on here that are developmental guys that I do feel would help this team exponentially. So with that being said, I'm going to start off with a position that everybody feels we have a plethora of, and that's wide receiver. Now, this particular guy is a guy that for me, it would be hard to pass him up because he's such a playmaker. Not only that, he's one of these guys that he's under the radar because of where he plays. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who probably think that because of this particular offense that this team runs, that he's a product of that. But looking at him play and looking at the tape and the film, this guy's a beast. And I think that there should be some consideration looking at this guy because I do feel that he's actually a bigger Terry McLaurin. He doesn't have an issue with blocking in the running game. He's very good at catching the ball across the middle, and he doesn't have an issue with beating people deep. He's not the fastest guy, but he can get that breakaway speed. And with that being said, Monty Copio out of Memphis is that wide receiver. I really like this guy. Like I said, I know that because Alabama has their wide receivers that are coming out, and you have Jamar Chase out of LSU. Those guys are great. There's no doubt about that. But this guy here, Monty Copio, I think that people are underestimating how good this guy really is. And because of that, I think he's going to fall in the draft. But with that being said, this is a guy that Washington could, in fact, get and match with Terry McLaurin. I do feel that he is a taller Terry McLaurin because Terry McLaurin is 6 feet. Monty Copio is 6'3". So with that, I'm just saying, I just think that this guy would be a perfect fit beside Terry McLaurin. I understand. I get it. We have all the wide receivers in the world. I get that. But it would be hard to pass up a guy like this with this type of skill, especially when you're trying to determine who can be a solid number 2. And in my opinion, this guy would probably be the best number 2 opposite of Terry McLaurin. Next, I got my tight ends. Now, there are some tight ends on here that I feel are developmental guys, but there are also tight ends that I actually like. One guy that I like, well, 2 guys that I like are actually out of the same school, which is Iowa. Sean Bauer and Charlie Kolar. Sean Bauer, I looked at him because, one, he's a halfback, which means that he knows how to block. Whenever I look at tight ends, a lot of times I try to see if they have the element of being able to be a halfback as well, because then that proves a lot of times that they're able to block as well and that they don't have an issue with blocking. Sean Bauer is that guy. Now, again, he does need some development, but he is a guy that is sneaky when it comes to getting open and at the same time running little routes and things like that. He's not the best route runner, but that's something, again, if you're developing a guy, that's something you can work on. But his blocking is very key in with this whole thing, and I think that he would be a good fit. Charlie Kolar is the opposite of Sean Bauer. Charlie Kolar is the pass catching tight end out of Iowa, who's very good at catching the ball. He runs very good routes, but again, he's not that good at pass blocking, which is one of the areas that we really need a tight end in. But again, I don't think it would be hard for him to eventually develop into that blocker that you need him to be. So with that, I like those two. My number one guy on this list, to me, and at the same time, may be the best tight end in this draft, even though people think it's Kyle Pitts, is Brevin Jordan. I love Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan can block and catch. Unlike Kyle Pitts doesn't really block that well, but Brevin Jordan does, and he's big too. If Washington is able to get this guy, it would be a great fit for us because you would have a two-headed monster at tight end, along with Logan Thomas. So with that, I really like Brevin Jordan, and I highly suggest everybody check him out. Next is my safeties. There are a lot of safeties. This draft, just like last year, is stacked with safeties. And they're actually stacked with fairly good safeties. There's no doubt about that. But there are some safeties that are going to go high. Javon Holland out of Oregon and Mooring out of TCU, they're more than likely going to go high. These guys are game changers. But there's a game changer at safety that I absolutely love, and that will possibly be there for Washington to pick up. And that guy is Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri. Tyree Gillespie is one of the best safeties in this draft, and I think he's going to be so highly underrated in the draft thing that people are not going to see how good this guy is. This guy takes phenomenal angles when it comes to tackling. Not only that, he's a very short tackler. And he plays with such intensity that it seems like he's around the ball all the time. Not only that, he's a combo safety, which means he can play strong and free. So with that, I love Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri. I just think that he is one of the best guys. He's rangy. He doesn't get a lot of picks, but he's very rangy. I think the reason he doesn't get a lot of picks is because you can tell that teams were game planning for him. Because there are a lot of games, if you look at them, that the teams would see where he was located and throw to the opposite side of that. So I think that the other guy is Joshua Bledsoe is the other guy. But with that, you can tell that they were throwing more to Bledsoe's side than they would to Gillespie's side. And like I said, again, he's a very rangy guy. And like I said, he takes great angles when it comes to tackling. You're talking about a guy that, I mean, he's going to be so underrated in this draft because he doesn't have the picks, but people aren't paying attention to how great this guy really is. And for me, Tyree Gillespie should be there and should be a guy that Washington should really look out for. Next is my linebackers. There are not a lot of really solid linebackers in this draft. To me, the guy that I'm getting ready to talk about should be considered the best linebacker in this draft. I understand the reason why they don't do it is because he's shorter than Micah Parsons. Michael Parsons is like 6'3", but this guy is 6 feet. And that guy is Nick Bolton out of Missouri. I love Nick Bolton. I mean, this guy, he almost has zero holes in his game. Other than the fact that he sometimes, when blocks come, he does a really good job with shedding blocks. But it's hard for him to shed blocks when he's blocked by two people, which is for anybody. But because he's undersized, I think that people will sit up there and think that he's not that good. He's only 6 feet, but he is a menace. I mean, the guy can run with tight ends. He's a crasher to the line. He's everything Washington is looking for in a linebacker. And to me, he is the best linebacker in this draft. And like I said, again, you don't see a lot of guys who make plays like he does. This guy makes a lot of plays. But again, it's one of those things where, as Washington, we need a guy who's sideline to sideline. Nick Bolton is that guy. He crashes the line very good. Not only that, he blitzes, and he's so fast, and when he's so fast to the gap that he gets sacks that people weren't expecting for him to get. With that, I do love Nick Bolton. Last but not least are my quarterbacks. Now, I'm going to go from my least likable guy to my most likable guy. So I'm going to start off with my least likable guy, Jamie Newman. I do like Jamie Newman. Now, a lot of y'all are going to look for him at Georgia. He didn't play. You have to go to Wake Forest where he played a lot. If Ron Rivera is looking for a Cam Newton-like guy, Jamie Newman is the guy. Now, he's not a really good passer, I would say. You still have to develop him more to be a passer, but he does have the Cam Newton style of game. And what I mean by that is that there are two types of quarterbacks that the NFL wants nowadays. There's the runner, and then there's the improviser. Now, with the runner, he makes more plays on scheduled runs and things like that. And if some of his reads are off, he just runs the ball no matter what. Then you got the improviser. The improviser is the guy kind of like Taylor Heineke, where he'll sit up there and he'll go through his reads, and if he doesn't see anything, he'll then break. He'll make the run for it. But like I said, Jamie Newman, he's not an improviser. He's definitely a runner. He can throw the ball, but again, like I said, he is a guy that needs to be developed into that passer. So again, if they're looking for the Cam Newton type, Jamie Newman is the guy. But if not, he's really not the guy. But again, it wouldn't bother me if they drafted him, because he would, like I said, he fits that Cam Newton mold. But again, he's not my favorite guy. Next is Brock Purdy out of Iowa. Again, he's a short guy. He's 6'1", but he's so good when plays break down. And he does have this improvisational skill that when something isn't right, he will run the ball. He does do a very good job of extending plays. Not as accurate as you would want him to be sometimes, but he's not really a big interception guy. He does throw for a lot of yardage. And like I said again, he is a very good improviser. Now, it does take some time for him to warm up in games. He does kind of rattles a little bit, maybe in the first 2 drives, but after that, he's settled and he's in. And like I said again, I love his improvisational skill. And with that, Brock Purdy to me is one of the guys that I really like. My favorite guy, and to me probably the most underrated quarterback in this draft, is Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Now, a lot of people aren't looking at him. He is a senior, and the fact that he's a senior, but y'all have to understand something with Kenny Pickett. He came from a running offense to a passing offense the very next year. Each time, all he's done is increase his passing numbers. Now, again, this guy is perfect. Now, if you're talking about having Taylor Heineke and you having a guy you want to develop, Kenny Pickett will be ready by the following year. So 2021 rolls around, Kenny Pickett will be ready by 2022, still on his rookie deal. Like I said, Kenny Pickett, he's very underrated in this. I think that he's going to be so underrated that he's going to fall very far. But with that, this guy is actually better than what people think that he is. Now, I do think that now I'm talking about him, he might run up the board. But again, this is a guy that I really do feel is not being talked about enough. And because of that, he will fall. But Kenny Pickett, this guy does a phenomenal job. He's accurate. He has minor accuracy issues, just minor. Sometimes he'll overthrow a guy, but that's on the basis of him thinking that the guy's going to actually be faster than he is. Now, when it comes to the pocket breaking down, he's very accurate on the run. Like the fact that when he gets out the pocket and he does get the ball down the field is incredible. His only problem is that he doesn't know when to give up on the play. That's his only flaw. When it comes down to it, if a play has broken down and he begins to improvise, he will do everything he can to try his best to keep the play alive, and in turn will sometimes give up, like maybe have like a 15-yard sack because he's trying to he's trying to get a guy open. That's his own. That's probably one of his few flaws. But other than that, I like Kenny Pickett. I think that, again, he's a guy that we should really focus on and really pay attention to. And with that, those are my guys that we really need to zone in on, that I think Washington and the franchise should zone in on and pay really close attention to when it comes to this upcoming draft. All these guys that I said are guys that could possibly contribute. My favorite guys could possibly contribute immediately. But with that being said, again, it's always what it is. But like I said, these are the guys that I really, really like. Y'all should look them up. If there are guys that you want my honest opinion and my honest evaluation about, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.